I'm Richard Porter.
I'm Johnny Smith.
And this is On the Other Side of Things, the Smith & Sniff spin-off in which we answer your questions. Yes, we're back on a Friday on the other side of things, our questions show, and we start with a question from a Patreon.
You question, we answer. That's the way we roll.
Oh, Oliver Burden says, what car would you sweet guys like to see resto-modded the most, and how would you go about it?
Oh.
His suggestion is a Scimitar GTE with a V8.
No.
With a similar sort of intent to the frontline MGBs. So high quality cabin trimmings and more refinement.
Retro Power are doing one.
Are they?
Imminently.
They're doing so much stuff though.
I know. I got them that job. Damn
Did
it,
you?
And you know it, you boys. I got them that job. It's a hell of a build.
So it's for a customer, is it?
It's for a customer, and it was their dad's midlife crisis car that was dilapidated and left in the garden for years.
Okay.
And they've given it to Retro Power and it's going to have the most royal treatment. I think it's having what V8 is it? I think it's going to have a Ford Coyote engine because they wanted to keep it folds.
Yeah, fair enough.
So it's going to be a Coyote V8 with an auto. But it's going to be phenomenal build.
Gosh,
so
where do you start with these? Because there's so many things that you would love to.
Macharancho.
Well, I suppose that's our baseline. That's absolutely our baseline.
We always go for Macharancho.
Macharancho. But then I was just sort of suddenly popped into my head. Espas for some reason.
How bizarre you should say that, because I actually was going to say that as well. That's weird.
An original Espas, but if you could cram in a sort of more modern Renault V6.
I'd go EV.
Oh.
If you've driven the new Megane.
E-Tech, yes, I have. Yes, a nice car.
I'd put the E-Tech drivetrain in an older Espas. Could be a very...
Yes, but also, yes. I was just thinking maybe of sort of taking the original Espas, but then sort of doing some kind of deranged homage to that later Espas that was built around an F1 car with a mid-engine V10, but something else, like a mid-engined original Espas for really no reason at all, but it would still be. But then I'd quite like sort of brown quilty leather, like a Renault 25 Baccara.
Oh,
so
is that the ruched leather?
It's quite ruched.
It is a ruched.
Yes,
it's a bit Sunak spec.
Yes. I feel like
ruched Sunak.
Official friend of the show / bona fide SSG, Greg James, 80s Renault pervert that he is,
he
would fully endorse this.
The Baccara,
but a Baccara with inexplicably a mid-mounted V6.
Well, actually, when he was on the phone to me when I was needing the toilet, he was talking about resto-modded Renault 25s. and they have that very quilty interior from them.
They really do.
So that's the joy of the resto mod. I think you can make anything average absolutely superb, and it's the perfect opportunity for stealth wealth, I think.
Yeah.
Because you think to yourself, well, I could just go out and buy $100,000 car that's very, an executive saloon or something. Or you could spend the same amount of money on like an $8,000 car and just rework it.
Well, on that note, if I'm going to be fully idiotic and I've suddenly become an eccentric billionaire,
yes,
I'm going to have a Rover 800 that's been exquisitely restored to make all the panel gaps line up properly. But then I'm going to have a Honda NSX V6 installed into it.
Oh, you filthmonger. That's a good one.
Watch me go.
Yeah, that's...
Just need to work on the billionaire aspect of that, if not the eccentricity. Eccentric. Oh, that lovely chap at the live show in London the other week who was asking for our advice about what to get while his Elvis is in the garage being restored.
That's right.
Has bought an XJX V12.
Has he?
Yes.
It's the perfect London car.
It's so good. So there are not enough hats that we can take off.
Hat after
to doff
hat,
to you.
After hat, like Russian dolls of hats.
This is a bit of a random question, but I like it. Andrew Armstrong he says, hearing you talk a bit about music on the last podcast, and on a lot of them, I think, probably, but he says, it got me wondering, what were your first single purchases? Mine, embarrassingly, was I Should Be So Lucky by Kylie Minogue, and I had to go halves with my brother. Different times.
Different times. I've definitely said this before, I don't know, in some writing of mine or whatever. So the first singles that me and my brother bought, we bought them on the same day, because I remember it vividly, because we used to share them, like swap them. And so his was Club Tropicana by Wham.
Ooh.
And mine was Rocket by Herbie Hancock.
Oh.
Which I think are both good, solid tunes. And I think I might have sort of had a man crush on Herbie Hancock in the last few weeks over social media, because I'm discovering that he still has the AC Cobra that he bought brand new in 1963. 64.
What?
He's still got it.
Christ,
Yeah.
blimey.
When he just started making good money from jazz, modern jazz,
Yeah.
he wasn't even madly into cars, but he liked cars. And a friend of his,
terrifying death machine.
a friend of his, another session musician or something, said, "Oh, he's doing well. He's just bought himself a Maserati." And he looked at it and he went, "Oh, that seems quite expensive." And the guy went, "Yeah. He should have saved some money and bought an even faster car. He could have bought a Shelby Cobra." And he went, "What's a Shelby Cobra?" And he went, "What? Go and have a look. It's down the street. It's in the dealer." And he went down there and he went, "I like that," and just went and bought one. He's still got it.
That's
It's
sensational.
unrestored. Yeah, it's lovely. It's one of those cars. If I could ever own one, it would be.
What a dude.
Yeah, even more of a dude than he was before.
Andrew, if it makes you feel less embarrassed about I Should Be So Lucky, which, is frankly, in retrospect, a very solid pop song.
It is.
My first single was Rat Rapping by Roland Rat.
Was it really?
Yeah. Which is in no way acceptable.
That's not Club Tropicana.
My first album was the Beverly Hills Cop soundtrack, but I only bought it really because it had Axel F on it.
Hey, but that's a really you've been fully redeemed within seconds.
I don't know, have I though?
Yeah. Still one of the best films of all time.
Oh yeah, no, I'm not disputing that, but it's almost like okay. It was a good soundtrack actually. It's
great.
Quite recently, I tried to download it or find it on streaming music services, and for some reason it's not on there.
You need to buy a CD.
Yeah, well, what I did was I had to build my own playlist of the tracks, and actually not all of them available, but most of them are.
Okay. Off of Spotify or something?
Off of Apple Music,
Yeah.
Don't do Spotify, because they take this podcast and put their own adverts in it, and then they give us the money for it. So.
Do they really?
Yeah.
Bastards.
Yeah. Should talk about that anyway. But so another question is this. Fergus McIver says, "I repair classic cars for a living. Which one of you is better at fixing cars?"
We know, Fergus. We know that you do this. You're a good lad. You've got a very good car taste.
But there's no contest. It's you, isn't it?
Well, I suppose I do more on a more regular basis, but I'm certainly no expert when it comes to DIY on cars. I've actually become more confident with age, because I've realised, what's the worst that can happen? I know that sounds flippant and daft, but what I mean by that is I do a sense check after I've done something to go, is that right? And I do get someone to usually look at it if it's something serious. But it can be immensely frustrating working on a car.
Yes.
But it can be immensely fulfilling at the same time. So, and actually, YouTube tutorials have helped immensely, especially younger people, to be more confident hands-on with cars.
Yes, it's true.
Yeah.
I've used YouTube tutorials for sort of DIY in the house.
Yeah.
Occasionally.
I'd like to do some car DIY with you one day.
I know, we should do this, shouldn't we? Because... to the tape, Johnny's holding up a glass, or was a glass of a fruity red.
Yeah.
And
a couple of glasses of full-bodied, and we can be cracking right on.
Well, that might be the confidence I need, because I think that's the thing. My confidence to mend cars has diminished over the years. I just go, I used to do more stuff than I did. So, Simon Cornish has a good question, which is, what cars would you never buy yourselves but would recommend to a friend, and vice versa? I don't know what the vice versa. I suppose cars you wouldn't ever recommend but you would buy yourself. I mean, I'm going to say in the nicest possible way, it's always Toyotas and possibly Kias as well. People I know are not interested in cars.
Yeah.
I don't want them coming back to me and going, you told me to buy a P38 Range Rover as an everyday car and it's constantly going wrong. You absolute dickhead. Why did you do that? So I go, well, I'm not going to do that, obviously. But just go, I'm not interested in cars. I just need something to get from A to B. But the crucial thing is actually a P38 Range Rover can get to A to B. It's going back to A again is the important part, and that's where they let you down, perhaps.
Yeah,
so just go, if you're not really that into cars, why don't you get a Yaris?
Was the question stipulating that you're not into cars, or was it just recommending?
It just says, but would recommend to a friend.
See, a car that falls into that category for me, controversially, is probably an MX-5. Because they are a fantastic car. They're a really fantastic car. I mean, all the versions of them are great in their own ways. But I don't want to own one myself.
It's funny that, isn't it? Because I really, really like MX-5s.
I love...
Really like MX-5. I bet if I drove an MX-5 tomorrow...
Yeah.
I'd have a sudden hankering to buy an MX-5.
Yeah, I love that people love them, and there's a lot of them about, and I love what they're doing for a younger audience, you know, like younger people getting interested in analogue driver's cars at an affordable premium. Great.
Shit, should I buy an MX-5?
No, just buy a Boxster. They're the same price.
Ooh.
And there's no comparison in my head.
Well, but in terms of aggro...
I'd still get a box. Look, dude, after a nice glass of red, I can change 4 packs.
Yes, I just finished the Negroni, so, you know, I think we can match strides on the slightly inadvisable thoughts about cars.
To its credit,
hold on
MX-5s are great when they're modified. They're great when they're modified.
But I think that... So the problem is that not all MX-5s are equal.
No.
Like, sort of... All right, so a Mark 1 now...
Yeah. Bonafide classic.
Bonafide classic, but also they're terribly susceptible to rot.
Yeah. Hideous.
And Mark 2's also now...
Rotty.
Crust Avenue is their home, unless you're...
Well, they're all donors. They're drivetrain donors and...
Are they?
Yeah.
What, for Mark 1s?
Well, for a lot of kit cars and... and basically drift slags.
Oh, yeah, okay.
Because if they're so rotten that they're never going to go back on the road, they'll go on the track.
But
and those remember that sort of like that sort of retro style kit, single seater kit car, which Anstanstead co-developed, called the Tipo 184.
Yeah.
See that's Tipo 164, Tipo 184.
Something like that.
That's based on Mark II MX-5 parts.
Yeah.
You buy an MOT failure MX-5 Mark II and you repurpose all the bits. It's a genius idea, and it drove really well.
But I do. So hang on, let's have a little look. What are you getting for, say, 10 grand? What does that get you? See, 10 grand gets you into...
MX-5 gets you MX-5 royalty for 10 grand. You could probably get an RS Mark 1 for that.
Why is this?
Which is the one that...
I've done an absolutely cock-ass search here, but I'm just going to... Okay, let's see. Okay.
I know of one in a back garden in Cardiff.
10 grand gets you into current shape MX-5.
Yeah, probably.
It does. I'm here on the Auto Trader, and this is what I'm looking at.
The Auto Trader.
The Auto Trader. The fascination. It's funny actually, because it's clearly about that sort of the 9 to 10 grand mark is overlap between the Mark III,
and
which is the amphibious looking one.
Yeah.
But did get lots better later in its life. That's what I mean. MX-5s are not all equal, are they? Some, like the 1s are generally good, the 2s are generally good, but then the 3 started off not so great and then got good, I think. But
lots of people don't like the 2.
Do they not? Because they felt it was just a bit bigger.
Well, because the Mark 1 was so dainty, like an Elan.
Yeah. The first MX-5 I drove was a 2.
Yeah, do you know, it probably was for me, actually.
And I just thought it was... sensational.
Yes.
Sensational.
Yeah, they're good. They are good.
See, look, I'm browsing it. Oh, God, for jam.
Well, you're getting
now the weather's nice.
I know.
Just pop the roof down.
I've had the hood off the Boxster for just days and days.
They are SSCs.
Yeah, they are. And then the bottom line is,
Maybe I'm just going to go and buy one.
Neither a low end Boxster or an MX-5 is a fast car, but it's a very satisfying drive.
Yes,
and that's what we're talking about here.
Yes.
It's satisfying seat time,
pleasure.
Yes.
Next question, Martin Laver. It's one for you.
Yeah.
You can turn this one down if you want, but he says, Johnny, please can we have the lowdown on how you came to sell your bubble car to Michael Barrymore?
Oh yeah. Okay, so
I didn't know whether people knew this.
Well, I have told it in the past, but I can't remember where.
Where?
So when I was living in Chester doing my first journalist job, I used to buy and sell a lot of cars, and when I moved down to London as well, to supplement my income. I had bought a really nice Mark 1 Ford Granada in gold, 3 litre. So I had 2 Mark 1 Granadas at one point. And this 3 litre GL was very nice. Bought it for $250, did a few bits and bobs on it, and put it up for sale. Somebody, I saw a bubble car. No, did I see the bubble car? No, I put it up for sale, and somebody phoned me and they said, "Would you be interested in a part exchange or a swap?" And I was, young. And I was experimental, and I went, "Well, what have you got?" They got a 1958 Heinkel bubble car, and I went, "Does it?" I went, "Really?" I said, "Does it run?" And they went, "Yeah, it runs." I said, "I haven't MOT'd it for years, and it's been dry stored." And I said, "Okay, I wouldn't be given. I don't want any money, as in it has to be a straight swap." And he went, "Yeah." And I looked up the current value of a bubble car of that era and went, "Shit, that's like worth several grand." I paid $250 for the Granada. So he said, "Well, if you can bring the Granada over, we both look at one another's cars, if you're happy, I will trailer the bubble car to you." So I said, "Okay." So anyway, drove to Wigan, looked at this bubble car, and it was fantastic. And although I loved the Granada, I thought this is a chance to trade up because I needed the money. Bought this bubble car. It got delivered. I spent a bit of money actually getting it roadworthy-ish. Needed brake wheel cylinders and stuff, and it was cute. And then I thought, this is going to be the chance to properly make some money.
Yeah.
Advertised it up for sale, but in that time I'd relocated. I got a job in London for EMAP Publishing, working on car.
Yeah.
And while I was working on car, I put it for sale in the London Loot, thinking, Londoners will pay more for this stuff. Yeah. But of course, the car was still up in Cheshire at that point. I was borrowing a garage. Someone phoned.
Did you drive it much, by the way?
No, hardly at all. I think it was on 8-inch tyres, either 8-inch or 10-inch, and there were cross plies.
Oh, God.
And I remember vividly, I took it up the road for a shakedown after we'd done the brakes. 20 miles an hour felt like 120.
Were they drums, presumably?
Completely drums.
Were they like drums like the size of like a 2-pence piece?
Like a child's buggy. But I mean, it was such a fascinating little car, and I did really enjoy it, but I had to make money out of it. I had a phone call one day about the bubble car for sale in the London Loot. This guy phoned me, and he was asking all the good questions, just had the most familiar voice.
Oh, it was him himself.
It was actual Michael Barrymore.
His people.
So I remember him straight off the bat saying, "Look, the money's not the issue. I'm busy. I'm just trying to work out whether it's the right car, and if it is, whether you'll be able to deliver it." And I said, "Yeah, I should be able to." "Where are you based?" "Oh, I'm based on the sort of like Hertfordshire, Essex border." "Right, okay." Blah, blah, blah. I explained to him, I said, "I've just relocated from Cheshire, but I should be able to trailer it down." Then he phoned me a second time about a week later to say, "Right, I definitely want it." And I said, "Look, I'm really sorry to say this, but have we met before?" And he said, "No, I don't think so." and he'd emailed me, so I actually had his email address as well at that point. And I said, "You just sound so familiar."
Oh, God.
At the end, I said, "I'm sorry, but you just do." And he said, "Oh, well, my name's Michael Barrymore." And I went, "What?" I actually paused. I went, "What, like the Michael Barrymore?" And he went, "Yeah." And bear in mind, he bought this car off me at exactly the time that he was on trial for potential murder.
Oh, God. This was
that time.
Jesus.
Yeah. So to cut a long story short, I took the car to him and delivered it to him, and his manager bought it for cash, and I got a photo of him in it, and he drove it off down the road, even though I told him it didn't have MOT and tax. He drove it off down the road, swerving violently, and then a few months later, my manager at the time, my editor, persuaded me to sell the photo and the story that I'd sold him. I'm not particularly proud of that, but I wasn't earning very much money at the time, and I made more money from selling the picture to the Sun and the story than I did for the car to him. But if I ever meet Michael Barrymore again, I'm going to apologise for that bit, because I feel like a bit of a naughty bugger. But I'll tell you, I was earning 18 grand a year in London, which is not easy to live on.
No.
So that was the story. That was the story, mate.
Okay. Well, there we go. I think that's. I mean,
I've got one final question.
Yeah.
From a listener.
Yeah.
Called Jack. Hi, Jack. Richard and Johnny. Hello, guys. I feel this question would have more of a relevance to Johnny than Richard, as I know Johnny owns more cars, particularly sentimental ones. Although you've got some sentimental ones, I think. Yeah, Land Rover. I've been going through a rough patch mentally recently, and from within that disastrous spiral have emerged deep worries about being unable to keep or maintain a deeply sentimental car to me into the future, which have really been playing on my mind and affecting me far more than it really ought to. I would therefore like to ask you, if it is not too personal, what dark patches have you been through in relation to sentimental vehicles? How long were you in that mindset, and what helped you pull through? I feel like this could be a question Johnny could relate to with his Beetle and his Dodge, as I'm certain there must have been dark patches that made him concerned for those vehicles' futures. Sorry to put a downer on the mood there, lads, but love the podcast. Kind regards, Jack. Well, Jack, it's an interesting question. First of all, I actually drove my Dodge for the first time in 9 months, about 3 days ago, and it was such a mental boost to get back in like an old friend, because it kind of is like a family pet, really. Yeah. And although the car does need a few jobs doing on it, and my Beetle definitely is a tatty old beast, I get great pleasure from sort of keeping it just roadworthy enough, rather than focusing on it has to be immaculate, it has to be flawless. Because if you adopt that mindset, you'll always be disappointed. Yeah. Because stuff always needs something. Yeah. It's like owning a stately home or something. There's always going to be jobs. So what I would say is, what I say is, you've got to break these things with old cars and old car maintenance. You've got to break them down into little chapters, like, focus on the important stuff and work out from that. So it has to be able to stop, and it has to be able to start, and then try and enjoy the process of finding other parts, or get friendly with enthusiast clubs, because their enthusiasm is completely infectious. So do that, and then you'll get fulfillment from even doing the smallest of jobs or finding a little part that you've been looking for, because it'll improve the car, even if it's just 1% better than what it was before. So I would do that, and bloody try and enjoy them, because it doesn't matter if they're not mint. It doesn't matter if you're not driving it, every day. When you get in it, I think one of the joys of old cars and old motorbikes and stuff is the escape. It is a bit of escapism. It's just a little bit of history. Yeah. And
it's funny, actually, because that's, I suppose, my Defender is my only sort of emotional connection car, that the one that I'd sort of go, oh, no, I'll never sell that. No. Never sell that.
Yeah. And your kids like it.
My kids love it. And it's ridiculous, really. That car's now been in storage for, 2 years. I am going to get it back this summer.
Yeah.
And because out of the blue, the children will go, when's the green car coming back? Like, they know we still have it, but it's been put away.
It's been away.
When's the green car coming back? When's the Land Rover coming back? It's like they just love that car. It's bizarre how it's connected with them as well.
Yeah.
But actually, to Jack's question, sort of to Jack's question, that car, I think, for me, and if we're talking about sort of, low patches and cars helping you out of them, I ordered that car in early 2015, just before Top Gear that I was working at the time went to shit, when Jeremy hit one of our colleagues and brought the whole show grinding to a halt. And that was a bit of a difficult time for me, in as much as that it was just like suddenly I don't have a job. That was my main job.
For years.
But it was also, I was talking to Andy Willman, our exec producer, this week about it, and not about that specifically, but just about how much time we devote to the show, because we've just finished work on the final Grand Tour, which will be out in, I think I'm not allowed to say, but it'll be out at some point later this year. So I don't get bollocked by Amazon, maybe. But it's coming soon, and I hope people will like it, because I really, really like it. But I was talking to Andy, and he said, well, you know, for like you and me and Jeremy and Richard and James, this is the end of 22 years of doing this, and it's but the bit that struck home with me was he went, it's not been work or just a job, it's been a vocation, hasn't it? It's just been like, that's what we do. It's Absolutely. The main thing that we do. So when what we do and what I do judded to a halt for a bit, I was a little bit all at sea. I didn't really know what to do. You know, I was a bit like, what the fuck? This is, and writing a book about working on Top Gear was basically a sort of catharsis. But the other thing that kept me cheery was remembering, although it was a bit like, fuck, I've committed some money to buy a car I don't really need, but was remembering that at some point that Land Rover was going to be built and ready, and I was going to collect it, which didn't happen until sort of the December of that year, by which time I'd sort of, you know, made my peace with everything and gone back to the Grand Tour. But for a period it was like, well, at least I've got that treat to look forward to. This thing that I really want, I don't need. Yeah. So there's always that kind of that thing where just the thought of, in the same way that when I bought a car, I can't remember what I bought. I bought a car. At the same time, I needed a tooth pulled, and it was a horrible experience.
The car or the tooth?
The tooth. But I remember lying there and just sometimes trying to sort of mentally zone out of the unpleasant pain by thinking about the car.
Really?
Yeah, genuinely.
What I would say, Jack,
it might have been my Rover 75. Rover 75, an alternative to dental anaesthetic.
What I would say, Jack, I'll end this on this note, is even if the cars aren't running, you can go and sit in them, and it can be quite a nice little place to not meditate. Sounds a bit wanky, but you know what I mean, just escape for a bit. And also, you're saying worrying about the future of the cars. Well, I've actually started making a will, which I was supposed to have done ages ago, but for many reasons I haven't. And I had a chat with my kids about where the cars were going. And they ended up having a full fight about who gets what. but we've settled it now. We've settled it now. And the kids, you know, luckily my children are interested in our cars, and they understand that they're sentimental. But even if they're not worth much money, some of them. And so, yeah, I've kind of signed, or am signing them over in my will to, you know, Kitty May gets the Beetle, Wesson gets the Dodge.
Oh.
Blah, 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 blah.
Really? So this is
yeah. Actually, no, they share the Dodge. Wesson's getting the low rider, so I need to finish the bloody low rider.
Oh, yeah, you really do.
But yeah, in all seriousness, that's the future is certain. Now, obviously, when I die, they can sell them and do what the hell they want. But I guess I just, while I'm living with them, I just do what I can to kind of keep them going and keep them stored right, and enjoy them when I can. You know, you work hard. You try and look after them, and that's it. I know it's weird. They're not alive.
No,
it's odd, but they are. Like I just said, they do become like family pets. My Dodge is like a family pet to us. So,
what I would say, the converse of that is, and I'm basing this on my recent experience with my Panda, is that if a car is causing you more stress than pleasure,
get rid.
Yeah,
someone else will be out there.
Yeah, it's not like putting an animal down. No. Or maybe in some cases it is. I mean, I did contemplate just driving the Panda to a scrapyard, just drawing a line under it, taking the financial hit, but
give it away.
Or give it away.
Give it away to someone that actually cares.
That also crossed my mind. And I was like, this is stupid. I mean, it's got 500 quid's worth of tyres on it for a start. So there's some value. But I think that's an equally important lesson, that sometimes if you're not totally emotionally attached to a car, but it is getting on your nerves because it's an older thing or whatever, it's just going wrong, just
completely
cut out the bad actor in your life, and that could be a car.
Yeah. No, it's very true. Wise words, Richard.
But then sometimes, there's cars that go beyond that. I don't think your Dodge could do anything and not still be in your life, right?
No, it's been through...
or the Beetle, for that matter.
Yeah, they're keepers, those two. They are keepers. They mean too much to me, really. And they bring a smile, even when they're not quite running right, or a bit falls off them. I'm still kind of enjoying it, really.
Well, my Defender, which is the thing I was going to say. You're saying about getting back in the Dodge after ages. It's like, because I haven't driven bloody Land Rover for 2 years now, but I know when I get back in, it'll be like easing on a pair of really hefty sort of walking boots.
Yeah.
Initially, sort of, it feels the wrong shape compared to all the other shoes that you wear, but very quickly you just go, this is a bit of me. Yeah, it's a bit of me, and there's something to be said for that.
And that's why there's no wrong answer to interesting cars.
There's exactly.
There's the right car for everybody, and it's good that everybody has a thing for a different vehicle.
For every little pot.
Oh, you love
that. Oh, yeah, you bastard. Oh! Right, well, anyway, that feels like a sort of Jerry Springer-ish note on which to end this. Thank you to our patrons for the questions this week. We are getting questions in now on hello@smithandsniff.com, and we welcome those as well, and we'll answer some more next Friday. Until then, goodbye.
Bye, guys. Cheers, guys. Bye.
On the other side of things. On the other